I'm going to ask, because I'm assuming they're listening right now, for those 14 Senate Democrats, you've had your time. Now it's time to come home.
And with that, the governor of Wisconsin has invited the Democrats back into the state. Here's guessing that tactic won't work.
Yeah, that is until they run out of underwear or cash. All right, Topline starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Topline. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Amy Walter.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics. We always have plenty of all of the aforementioned staples. You can follow us, though, at twitter.com/Rick Klein, twitter.com/Amy E. Walter. Amy, what has got your eye today?
Well, we're going to go back to Wisconsin for a second here. But actually, Wisconsin is going national. It's spreading from the Badger State. Labor rallies being held all across the country today, including some of those key White House battleground states like Ohio, Nevada, Michigan. We also saw a big rally yesterday in Indiana. And as we saw with the clip this just a couple seconds ago with Scott Walker, no one really knows what's going to happen in Wisconsin. Both sides think that they're going to come out winners here. I'm curious what the voters in Wisconsin may be thinking about all of this.
We're seeing a pitched battle play out in all of these states. The future of the labor movement really in the balance happening at the very much at the state level, also to a lesser extent at the federal level. Yep. Next up today, Hoosier Tea Party. The Republican state treasurer in Indiana, Richard Murdoch, is kicking off his challenge against Senator Dick Lugar. He is boasting of a majority support of both the state's 92 Republican county chairmen as well as the state party executive committee. He'll have some of the state political establishment in his corner. Dick Lugar, been in Indiana, is an institution, the longest-serving senator in Indiana history. And if someone's going to have a chance against him in the primary, it's going to be because of Tea Party energy and come in with kind of that establishment support. He could have a race on his hands.
Well, it's interesting. Murdoch also saying, I don't want to be known as the Tea Party candidate, which has been interesting. You're seeing some candidates now stepping away from that. Scott Brown most recently saying he doesn't see himself as a Tea Party candidate. One thing also to remember, Indiana has an open primary, so it could be tougher to coalesce conservative votes. All right. Next up, the mayor. It's election day in Chicago, and the #1 question on the minds of all of us, can Rahm Emanuel get to that magic 50% +1 to avoid an April runoff? We saw him out today handing out donuts to his poll workers, polls showing that he's this close to 50%. And even if he doesn't make it today, the expectation is he wins a runoff rather easily.
It seems pretty clear that he's going to be the next mayor of Chicago. Does he do it as quickly as he'd like when you have all the other candidates, 5 other candidates in the race who are all gunning against him, try to keep him below that threshold so they have a shot in the runoff? And finally today, maybe someday, that is the actual tagline of the new Political Action Committee that's been formed by a group of supporters of Jon Huntsman. I quote from their website, maybe someday we'll find a new generation of conservative leaders. Hardly rousing words of support from a group of people that want to be behind the candidacy of the man who is still serving as of this speaking as President Obama's ambassador to China.
Right, so that's why it still has to be very vague.
Maybe
by May 1st it will move from maybe to
You never know.
It could be.
Someday could be today, indeed. And we begin today's program talking to a good friend of Topline, former Congressman Martin Frost, a Democrat of Texas. And Congressman, you have an interesting piece that you just penned for Politico, talking about the values that are part of President Obama's budget. We've seen a lot of criticism come from the left as this budget was rolled out. What do you make of the statement? What was the White House trying to communicate with a budget that's been so widely panned on both the left and the right?
Well, he's been trying to show that he is looking to the future, that he has the deficit in mind long term. Look, the battleground in the next election in 2012 is going to be in 8 industrial states in the Midwest. Wisconsin is one of them, by the way. The president carried all 8 of those states last time. There are 111 electoral votes there. Somehow he's got to show that he's with the workers, that he's with people who are concerned about their jobs. And what the Republicans have done, interestingly enough, in Wisconsin, is they've given him a golden opportunity to be on the side of the working men and women. Labor movement had been kind of on the sidelines as far as the president was concerned until recently. Now he's able to help motivate his base. This may actually long-term help him in the election.
Congressman, I want to move to a topic that you know a lot about from your time in Congress, this budget battle that is now looking like it's going up to the brink here. March 4th is looming. Can you tell us what you think about if a government shutdown does happen, who gets the blame?
Well, Amy, I was there in 1995 when Newt Gingrich shut down the government, and we know who got the blame that time. It was the Republicans. I think they're playing with dynamite here. I will be surprised if there's a shutdown. I think there'll be a couple of more short-term CRs, and then you get to the vote in May on the debt ceiling, and then there'll have to be some compromises made. There'll have to be some cuts, not as much as the Republicans want right now, but I don't think they're going to be successful in shutting the government down, and I think their leaders know that this is real trouble for them if they actually try and do it.
Take us back to that time, because you hear a lot of members today who weren't part of that in 1995, 96, and they say government shutdown, maybe that's a good thing. It finally restrained spending. What was the political upshot from your recollection of that period 15 years ago?
Rick, when people don't get their Social Security checks, when people have trouble with their veterans benefits, with the national parks closed down, then people say, no, what's going on here? We don't have to shut the government down to get something done. I think the Republicans, again, are playing with dynamite on this issue. Their leaders were there. Interesting enough, Boehner was in Congress in 1995. He's seen this movie before. Now, some of the other younger ones haven't been, and I have a feeling that at the final analysis, he's going to say, we don't want a rerun of what happened in 95. But there will be some tough votes eventually. When you get to the debt ceiling, there'll have to be some compromises there, and then it gets really interesting.
Congressman, I want to bring you back to another time, 2003, which looks very familiar to what's happening in Wisconsin right now. Texas legislators at that point fled across the border hoping to avoid redistricting that they thought was unfair. Obviously, we know the final end to that story. I mean, can things actually end well here for Wisconsin Democrats?
Well, that I don't know. What happened in Texas was that some of the state senators broke a quorum and went to New Mexico, but one of the rogue Democrats left. He didn't stay. There wasn't solidarity with all the Democrats, and so one of the Democrats went back, and that was over. I don't know what's going to happen in Wisconsin. If they all stay, then it gets really interesting. Again, I don't know the individuals in Wisconsin, whether it all hang together. One of them left in Texas, and ultimately the Republicans got what they wanted.
But do you think it's a good strategy, ultimately, to do this?
Oh, I think it very clearly shows what's at stake, and it shows that Democrats are willing to fight, even if they ultimately lose on this battle. It's very important for the party faithful to see members of their party standing up for them, making a fight, and that's exactly what's going on. And as I said, I think that motivating labor is something that the Republicans may have made a mistake on, because if labor gets fired up in the 2012 election, Obama will carry those Midwestern states that he needs to win.
But labor's on the defensive in so many of these places. What has happened to the labor movement in this country, and what is it going to take to get it back involved? We've heard so much about election after election. They are the organizing muscle that's out there, but they are under attack in state after state after state right now, on the defensive.
Well, now look, this is a concerted effort on the Republican Party to try and destroy labor unions. This country was founded on the principle of the right of people to be represented, and in the last 100 years, we've had positive things come out of labor management relations. Neither side has won all the time, but it's been good for our economy. This is the 100th anniversary of the fire in New England that killed several hundred women in a sweatshop. This is the 100th anniversary. It's a triangle shirt fire, and that will remind people that there were reasons for labor unions, and labor unions do play a valid role in this country. I think the Republicans have made taking a calculated risk to be adamantly anti-labor. I don't think ultimately that's where the public's going to be, and I think it's going to hurt them in the election.
But one quick issue, though, you were around running the DCCC back in the days when people said, well, the problem for Democrats and labor is less about economic issues than it is about social issues, and whether it was about guns or gay marriage, that's where they lost that link.
It's all the economy this time. Everybody understands that the president's got to make some progress on the economy. Unemployment's got to continue to inch down. People have got to feel better about themselves. I don't think the social issues will make a difference in this election, and that's why the president is trying in his budget to make some progress on the deficit. Now the question is, did he go far enough? We'll see how that plays out. But this election, I believe, will be entirely determined by the economy.
All right, former Congressman Martin Frost, Democrat of Texas, a good friend of the program. We appreciate having you stop by. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.